It's July 10th, 1999, Pasadena, California. China and the United States have played to a 0-0 tie in the World Cup final, so it's come down to penalty kicks. Brandi Chastain is the USA's final kick taker, and if she scores, they become World Cup champions. Images of what's about to happen are engraved in American sports legend. You've definitely seen them. But there is so much more to the moment. To recall this event as more than just a series of images, we'll need to look behind it. Before rewinding, let's zoom out. Look at where we are. This is the Rose Bowl, and on this hot, sunny day, it is packed to the brim. That was not a sure thing. US officials initially planned to host this World Cup at a few smaller stadiums on the East Coast. It wouldn't be a huge, sprawling event like the 1994 Men's World Cup was. But the crowd that watched America win gold at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta sparked hope that women's soccer could pack football-sized buildings just like the men's game. And the turnout for USA games this year has more than validated that hope. Their opening match sold out Giant Stadium. 79,000 fans constituted the biggest crowd ever for a women's sporting event. The host nation put on a show against Denmark that day, and they continued dominating from there, only really struggling against Germany in the quarterfinal. And now that they've made it to the final, Americans have only gotten hungrier. The Rose Bowl fits about 90,000 people, so this is yet another broken record. This moment is taking place in front of the most people ever to assemble for a women's sporting event in the history of Earth. And these aren't just regular old people. President of the United States Jennifer Lopez performed before the game and actually recorded a music video here. And Bill Clinton is here too to watch a historic soccer match, but also for political reasons. See, at one point there was some doubt that China would be here for this World Cup. Back in May, during NATO's bombing operation over the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, several US planes mistakenly bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, killing 3 people. It was a grave, tragic mistake by the US that, for a time, seriously hampered relations with China. And in its aftermath, some worried that China's powerhouse soccer team would skip the American-hosted World Cup in response. Those worries were clearly unfounded, but things are still tense enough that Clinton's attendance today isn't just in support of his own team. He's here to visit China's locker room too and try to make some political amends. So we've got some important people here, but it doesn't look like they've seen much of a game. How did we end up at 0-0? This is where it's important to understand that this Chinese team is every bit as dominant as the Americans. This is a legit rivalry with some highly competitive recent history. And China's taken it to the US a couple times this year. In March, they beat them in the final of the Algarve Cup. In April, they won a friendly match at Giant Stadium. That broke a 50-game USA win streak on games played inside the US. In this World Cup, China won Group D with ease, then cruised through what should have been a challenging knockout round. Norway were the defending World Cup champions and China f***ing whooped them. Chinese striker Sun Wen scored a tournament-leading 7 goals during China's run to the final, and today she's the most dangerous player on the field. So wait, why didn't they get any goals? USA coach Tony DeCicco has had his team playing pretty radically aggressive defense, especially for 1999. Here in the 90s, a typical defense would hang back, relaxing attention to the middle part of the field to protect against scorers like Sun and Jin Yan. But the US didn't do that. They defended up, putting waves of pressure on China's midfield to keep them from providing support to their strikers. This sometimes left Chinese forwards and American defenders to face off in wide open space. That was a lot of trust placed on individuals like Chastain, Carla Overbeck, and veteran leader Michelle Akers to neutralize threats without much help. On a sweltering day on their home turf, DeCicco banked on his players winning one-on-one physical battles for the ball. And it paid off. Akers was powerful and unrelenting, while Chastain made a couple incredible plays to stifle China's offense throughout regulation time. And here's Chastain now, but if Akers was such an important player, why is she nowhere to be seen during penalty kicks? At 33 years old, Akers was the oldest member of this starting 11. She was the top scorer for the USA when they won the first ever World Cup in 1991. But soon thereafter, Akers began to deal with mounting injuries and a worrying level of exhaustion that was eventually diagnosed as chronic fatigue syndrome. She's been coping with that ever since. Akers shifted from forward to midfield to reduce stress on her body, but was still hampered by injuries throughout the 1995 World Cup. And once again today, she has taken a beating and played like an absolute champ in spite of it. But in stoppage time, it got to be too much. Right after a shot to the face, Akers staggered off the field, utterly depleted. Her World Cup career is probably over. So yeah, America's veteran leader is nowhere to be seen right now. She's in the locker room hooked up to an IV. But there have been some heroics since she left. Brianna Scurry is the USA's reliable, all-consuming goalkeeper. She's been a rock throughout this World Cup. Today, American defenders didn't let many balls reach her, but she's done a fine job snuffing out scary moments just the same. And here in penalty kicks, she's made the difference. Each side connected on both their first 2 PKs. But on China's third attempt, Scurry guessed correctly and came up with a save. Did she come off her line illegally before China's Lu Ying struck her shot? Yeah, looks like it. Didn't get called though. That doesn't get called a lot in 1999, sorry. Anyway, once Scurry broke things up, all the US had to do was score their next 3 PKs to secure the win. And up next was Kristine Lilly, who had already saved the day. Don't forget, there was extra time, golden goal extra time, between regulation and the PKs, and the US had to play those 30 minutes without Akers. And with that hole in the American defense, China started getting opportunities. Scurry did her best, but in the 99th minute, China got one by her. Fan Yunjie unleashed a dangerous header off a corner kick, and it would have been the cup-winning goal if Lilly didn't cover the post perfectly. And she did her job in PKs too. Before Scurry's big save, Carla Overbeck and Joy Fawcett both scored going right. Lilly went left, precisely enough to beat a great dive from China keeper Gao Heng. Next up, Mia Hamm. Hamm is the face of this team and its primary threat, but she played mostly a facilitating role in the US's run to the final. And today, she's been held in check by a China defense that's focused on denying her. She also hates penalty kicks and really didn't want to take one. But she knew she had to and got it done, switching back to the right side for a nice, clean goal. And that's how we ended up here. The US has a 1-goal advantage in PKs, Chastain is the 5th kick taker, and she just has to beat Gao Heng to become World Cup hero. Every part of that sentence deserves a closer look. Remember how China beat the US at the Algarve Cup in March? Well, that was a 2-1 loss, but it could have been 2-2 if Chastain didn't hit a penalty kick against Gao Heng off the crossbar. And remember how the US struggled in the quarterfinal of this World Cup? Well, they only fell behind in that game because of a careless own goal off the foot of Chastain.
Chastain back to scoring! She came out, and it's a goal for Germany!
Chastain scored on the correct goal later on, and the US won, so she has been redeemed. And a potentially similar moment today was cleaned up by Scurry. But yeah, it is noteworthy that a player who recently missed a PK against this exact goalie, and who would have been the GOAT if her team didn't come back in the quarterfinal, is the USA's 5th kick taker in the World Cup final. And even that last part was in question. When assistant coach Lauren Gregg put together the list of kick takers, she had Chastain 6th, meaning she'd only get a shot in the event of a tie. But DeChico overruled that. He put Chastain 5th because he had a plan. The head coach had observed in the months prior that Chastain's penalty kicks were too predictable. So he advised Chastain, a former striker who was strong with both feet, to practice PK's lefty. And after slotting her 5th, DeChico instructed Chastain to surprise Gao by shooting with the wrong foot. So here she is. Brandi Chastain has the chance to be World Cup hero, just months after her mistake in the Algarve Cup and days after her error against Germany. The United States has made it this far today with defense. Sound goalkeeping by Scurry, some incredible efforts by Chastain and Overbeck and Michelle Akers, and a miraculous play by Lilly in Akers' absence. And whatever happens, it's going to happen in front of a record-setting, star-studded, and very sweaty crowd. Okay, we're here. Welcome to a moment in history. Team USA became the first ever squad to win the Women's World Cup on their home turf. And of course, a bunch of kids who grew up watching that team won the World Cup again in 2015. Thanks very much for watching Rewinder. Please feel free to recommend more topics and like and subscribe to SB Nation, and I love you.